Okay, so I guess we can proceed with the session today as we have limited time duration. So thanks for joining the session. Today we are going to discuss about object storage service in AWS. This is called as S3 service, AWS S3 service. Probably you would have come across this service while you were practicing with the AWS console. We are going to get into the introduction part of this S3 today. I'll quickly get into the theoretical understanding of the S3, and then we'll straight away get into the demonstration part. So what this object storage service is all about is a storage platform where you will be storing any files that you wanted. Okay, so it is going to be considered as a simple storage service, S3. Okay, the S3 refers to simple storage service. Now, Amazon Simple Storage Service, which is called as Amazon S3, is storage for the internet. So, storage for the internet means you can store anything that you wanted in this particular storage platform. There is no specific constraint that we have. You can store anything that you wanted. It could be an image, it could be a audio content, anything that you wanted. You can persist it in this storage service. So, that's what the simple storage service is all about. We shortly call it as S3 service. Now, what this S3 contains in a technical point of view is a bucket. You can see there is a S3 bucket reference is shown as an image. This is an official image of the S3 bucket. So, Amazon Simple Storage Service S3 bucket would look like this. Now, this bucket will store some information, and that informations are considered as an object. Now, what you are seeing inside this bucket is nothing but an object. You are storing the object, and if needed, we can also retrieve it. But the objects which are stored within the buckets are accessible. Okay, you will store the objects into the bucket, and it is accessible. You can access it means you can retrieve the bucket as well. The objects from the bucket. Okay. So you will store the objects into the bucket and you will retrieve the objects from the bucket. Everything is treated as an object, which is a highly notable point because it is an object storage. It is not a block storage. Okay, it is not a database storage services. It is straight away an object storage. If you push an image, the image will go as an object only. Okay, so any data that you push will be stored as an object within a bucket, right? So you can store the objects and you can retrieve the object. What type of an object? Any kind of an object which can be persisted inside this bucket. Now, how much amount of data that you can store inside it? Any amount of data. But there is a constraint for free tier. Okay, when it is a free tier, you will be limited with the size of storage, where it is 5 GB of data which you can store it inside this bucket for 1 year of period, and at any time you can store from anywhere you can store. So since it is accessible via the public internet, you can access that resource from anywhere at any time, and you can persist any amount of data. So there is no limitation actually, but cost involvement will be there. So is there a capacity for this particular bucket to say? As such, there is no capacity limit. It is stated that it is an unlimited amount of data which you can store, but as much as amount of storage capacity that you consume, you have to pay for it. Okay, pay for what amount of space that you occupy or memory that you occupy onto this bucket will be chargeable. But for free tier, it is all about 5 GB of data which you can store at any time, right? So one object size is 0 bytes to 5 TB, 5 terabyte. Please be noted, 0 bytes to 5 terabyte. This is not a limitation. What I mean to say is, if you are storing one movie into the bucket, that movie will go as an object, and that one single movie size can be between the range of 0 bytes to 5 TB. So practically you can have 0 bytes of object size, or it can go to the growth of 5 TB, terabyte. But like which, how many objects you can store inside the bucket? Unlimited. So bucket size becomes unlimited, but the objects inside the bucket will have a specific limitation where single object size can't grow more than 5 TB of size. Okay, so there's a big difference between an object and a bucket. So bucket is nothing but a collection of objects. Bucket is nothing but a collection of objects. Please be noted about it. So I'll take the queries at the end because we have limited time. I'll try to convey the information as much as possible. We'll find if at the end we will spend some 5 to 10 minutes to take up the query. If not, we will connect up on the group as well. Now, this bucket, which can consume the data in terms of a text, you can store a text data into it. You can store an image data into the bucket, or you can store an audio content into the bucket, or even a video content, or even a data set. When you go for the big data, or if you're working on some data science project or machine learning project, this Amazon S3 resource will be the hub for such operations. But actually, to say, S3 plays a major role when it comes to the certification. So in Solutions Architect Associate C02 exam, more number of questions will be asked from S3. So we have to dwell more in detail about the S3 services. So since it's a fundamental that we are entering into, we'll try to grasp the high level informations of this bucket services. So you can store any kind of data, and that data will go inside the bucket as an object only, since it is called as an object storage service. Okay, now let's look at from the point of resilience. Okay, so if you look at this diagram, I have a region which you're well familiar of this diagram, which we have got an insight about it in the last week. And now what I'm trying to explain here is, in this region, as usual, you'll be having multiple availability zones. So it's all about the Mumbai region, so that where in Mumbai, we have 3 availability zones, and these 3 availability zones are interconnected. That's what we learned in the last session. Right now, what I'm trying to explain is, in this different availability zone, I'm going to pick one of the availability zone and I'm going to launch a bucket into it. S3 bucket instance will be launched into that particular availability zone. Now what happens is, once this bucket is launched, and if in case you want to check out for the resilience of this particular bucket, it is stated that S3 buckets are your regional resilient. It's not global resilient, but it is a regional resilient. Means this bucket can survive the particular region, because you can create a bucket only on top of a specific region. Even though S3 bucket is a global service, AWS global service list, in the AWS global service list, S3 is one of the service. S3 is a global service, but specific to a region. If you want to take it to another region, you can configure it in such a way, and you can move the bucket to the another region. But typically, when you create a bucket, it will get created in a specific region and in a specific availability zone. But the advantage here is, why I'm saying it's a regional resilient, is it can survive the whole region. How? The same bucket will be replicated into the other 2 availability zones. Okay, like how you saw the diagram of a data center, which I explained in the last session. Similarly, you can see the similar bucket instance is automatically replicated to the other availability zone. So what happens is, if in case there is a blast happens in the particular availability zone, automatically you can still take the data availability from the other availability zones as well. That's why the name itself is suggested as an availability zone. You're getting it? So when you trigger one S3 instance into one particular availability zone, if that zone goes down because of different region, probably a power grid failure occurs, or could be some different reasons that availability zone have to go down, then your bucket also goes down. But since there is a replication of that bucket happens on the other availability zones, you still have the access to your data without having any downtime, right? So S3 buckets, to be highlighted, it is a regional resilient service. These are some of the exam-based questions you might get it. So please be noted upon that S3 buckets are regional resilient, but it's not global resilient. So what happens if the region goes down? Okay, the whole region goes down. Practically, that's not going to happen. So let's say if India, as in Mumbai region, goes down, the all availability zones are going down. In that case, you will not have access to your S3. So you can't take a backup of that replica of that particular S3 bucket into other regions. That's not possible. That's why it is set regional resilient. Otherwise, we can call it as a global resilient, right? But it is not a global resilient. It is a regional resilient. S3 service is a regional resilient. Hope this gives you a better clarity. Now, if you look at the workflow process, so let's say I take an image of Sundar Pichai and I want to store this image into my S3 bucket instance, which I'm going to create. So it's going to be stored in the bucket as an object. Please see the differentiation here. I have an image of Sundar Pichai and I want to push this image into the S3 bucket. What the S3 bucket contains? Object. So Sundar Pichai image goes as an object inside your bucket. That is the meaning. So if you see the synchronization, your image is seen as an object, but what other thing the object will contain also we need to approach, which is nothing but a key. The object is made up of, let's say the object in a bucket is made up of a key where the name of that file, let's say sundar.png, that's the key, and it also contains a value. The value is nothing but the binary data. Okay, the binary data is what the object representation is. So your image or audio or video will all go as a binary and converted into a single object, and the object comprises of a key and a value. Now, along with this, it also has some metadata information. If you look at it here, we have a version identity for the particular object. So for every object, you can maintain a version. Why we need a version, we will discuss more in detail about later, but I'm giving you a quick overview. The version is nothing but if I'm trying to mistakenly delete an object, if you enable the versioning, we can retrieve the object quickly with the help of version maintenance. So the previous version can be revoked if in case by mistakenly you have deleted the object. So that is just an instance, but we have to go and understand more in detail about the versioning, which we might be doing it in the later process. The next one is meta informations. The information about that particular object can be carried. You can add on as much number of informations. It's all about tagging, key and value pair of informations which you will be providing. And it also has an access information. Who can access and who cannot access? Is there any restrictions? Is that a public access or is that a private access? So you'll also have an access information, and you can also have some sub resources. Okay, so you can have some additional object details also to be stored. So that is considered as your sub resources. So you can create one folder, and inside the folder you can have multiple objects. Those multiple objects are considered as a sub resource. But keep in mind, everything is going to be considered. Everything is going to be considered as an object. Even a folder that you create there will also be considered as an object. Is this S3 a hierarchical structure like how we have a file system in our machine? Obviously not. It is not going to be acted as a file system hierarchical approach. Rather, S3 will be seen as a flat structure. A flat structure where you store all your objects in a flat structure. Even though you create a folder, it will not appear like a hierarchical file system approach. Rather, it will be a straight flat structure. Probably we will view that in later sessions on explaining how this flat structure would look like. Now, this is one group. Okay, what you're seeing right now is a one group, and you have all the elements in it. Okay, you have the key, you have the value, you have the other informations on the right hand side, which is more relevant to the object, the metadata, access info, and so on. Everything is collected and they're available as an object. Okay, so we bring all these informations and consider it to be an object, and this object is actually considered as a file. An object is a file. To store a file in Amazon S3, you upload it to a bucket. Simple. Okay, technically it is an object, but the object will be stored as a file inside your bucket. So you can see that it goes straight into your bucket, right? So what an object comprises of? A key and a value. Value is the information which you are storing as an object representation. But objects are technically nothing but a file which comprises of your binary data and the other informations surrounded by it. And then you directly store the object into your S3 bucket. Simple storage service. Amazon Simple Storage Service. Okay. So I guess you got the idea from this diagrammatic workflow, but let's go straight into the demonstration because we are almost done with 15 minutes of time duration. So I'm going to take you through a demo. So pay closer attention to this demo. So right now I'm on my console, okay, AWS management console. Right now I'm sitting on top of that. You can go and search for S3, okay, which is a scalable storage in the cloud, simple storage services. Or you can also select from the recently visited services as well. This is the main dashboard, right? AWS console management. I'm sorry, AWS management console window. In that, you can select the S3. In the last week, we selected EC2, if you remember. Okay, Elastic Cloud Computing EC2. But this time, it's all about S3. This is the main window. Once you click the S3 link, this is the main window of your S3 bucket creation, which is displayed on your account. Okay. Now, if you see here on the top, okay, you can see it's a global. Can you see that? It's automatically highlighted to global. See the difference. Let me go back. I'll take you to the EC2. When I take you to the EC2, you can see the options to select your regions. Okay. But if I go to S3, because it is global service, please be noted, S3 is a global service. Okay. Here it is global. If I select that, you don't have the option to choose your region here. Even though you don't have the option to choose your region here, service might be global, okay, but it will be located on the specific region. You're getting it? Service might be global, but the object that you create will go into the specific region. But we cannot choose here, but we will choose the region at the time of creating a bucket. When I'm going to create a bucket, at that time you will select the region where you want to store your bucket. Okay. So this is something very notable. That's the reason it is said to be a global service, like how your IAM is there, Identity Access Management Service, that is also a global service. So let's go straight into this create bucket button. You can see that you have the option to create a bucket. You can click on that. And here it is prompting for a bucket name. You have to give a bucket name. So let's say I give a bucket name called Sabari. The moment I give a bucket name called Sabari and if I hit next, you will notice that there is a prompt, a warning prompt occurs saying that bucket name already exists. So bucket names should be unique, globally unique. It's not just about that region. The Sabari name is not searched only from the specific region of this Mumbai. It is searched in a global repository, and then it identifies that there is a name called Sabari bucket which is available in somewhere in some region or some availability zone. We don't know, but the name is already available. So you cannot use the duplication of names in your bucket. Bucket names are globally unique. Okay, so I'm going to use something called InfiXP, my YouTube channel name InfiXP, and then say bucket 1. Okay, so this is going to be the bucket name. And if I say next, you can see it is permitting me to go to the next screen. The reason is this name is not available anywhere. Okay, it's not used. Okay, so we can use this bucket name and you can choose the region here. As I said, now you have the option to choose the region where you want to locate this particular bucket instance. So I'm leaving it to the default of the region where we are located. My account is located, I'm sorry, and that's nothing but Mumbai region. And we have the 3 availability zones, and the bucket will be replicated automatically to the other 2 availability zones. Your availability is always there, high available. Okay. Now there is a copy settings from an existing bucket. If you have any settings that you have already done for the previous bucket, then you can bring the settings into this bucket also, like for example credentials, access managements, okay, tag informations. All these you can bring it back to this bucket also, so that right now I don't have anything in my bucket list. I'm sorry, in the copying bucket list, because I haven't created any bucket yet. So bucket name, the region, and then you can hit next. And you can see here there's a key value which you can provide. This is the tag that I was talking about in the slide. Okay, you can specify for which project is this bucket is created. Let's say I work for Nissan, and then I'm saying Nissan. So now what happens here is the cost involvement can be tracked with the help of a tag. When you give the tag information, it's more informative that, okay, this bucket got created for the Nissan project, and so it should be accountable for the Nissan account. The cost should be incurred from that Nissan account. Okay, this is just a arbitrary information. Okay, not more of a specific, but this tag can really help us in long way, as we need to get more information about this bucket creation. And here we have versioning and other informations which will be detailing it as we go on with the other sessions on the S3. So right now I'm leaving this page default, but just adding the tag information. Hitting next. This is very important. You can see that block all public access. You see this? Block all public access. This block all public access says that you will not have access to your bucket that you create, because by default it is not accessible for public access. That is, once you have created a bucket, and if anyone from the public internet wants to access this bucket, they will be unable to access it, because it's enabled as block all public access. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to enable this checkbox. I'm going to disable this checkbox. Okay, once I deactivate, immediately this I'm doing it in the access permissions, that is in the set permissions section. It says disabling block all public access may result in the bucket and the objects within becoming public. Do you want to proceed with that? Yes, I acknowledge this. Yes, of course, I want to make this bucket to be publicly accessible. But even though we give this privilege, we will be unable to access. I'll tell you why later, because we need to give coding based permissions as well, which I'll be explaining it shortly. But keeping in mind that we should not block all public access permission for this bucket, because I want the public to access it. The public who is coming via the public internet should get an access to this bucket. So hit next, and that's all. You can review your bucket creation meta informations. If you feel everything is okay, and you can go ahead and create a bucket. That's it. Now we are done by creating one bucket. You can see the bucket name appears here, right? It's more unique. And one more thing that you have to notice here is in the bucket name, okay, infi xp bckt1. Now you can see bucket name is already owned by you. Okay, it's quickly giving that information for me. If you notice, you cannot use special characters. Even the uppercase characters are not acceptable. Bucket names are very crucial, so you have to be very careful. You can't use uppercase. You can't use @ symbols, hash symbols, no special characters. Okay, hyphen is acceptable, but in between of @ or something is not acceptable here. Okay, so please be noted about it. I'm giving .com. Okay, when I'm giving .com is feasible. Okay, the combination should be like this, but because it should be more relevant to the DNS naming standards. Sometimes you want to provision a static web page, then you can think of giving this extensions like .com or .org or something like that. That's feasible, but just ending with the dot is not acceptable. Okay, so you can have dot in between, or you can have hyphen in between, which are valid naming standards for a bucket name. Okay, why I'm stressing on all these? Because on these areas also there are possibilities where the questions might come up, because S3 is more important service in terms of from the certification point of view. Okay, Now we have created a bucket. What next? What is that we have to do? You can click this bucket. When I click this bucket, you will get into the bucket space where you can upload your files. Whatever files that you wanted, you can upload it. But what I'm trying to do right now is, before getting into the bucket, when I select this bucket, you can see the complete bucket informations are thrown here. Okay. So in the bucket information, you can see that there is a copy bucket ARN option is there. Okay. I'm just briefing you just for information perspective. I'm just copying this ARN. Amazon resource name. ARN is nothing but Amazon resource name. Okay. Amazon resource name. See how an Amazon resource name would look like. Okay. It is starting with an ARN. For every Amazon resources, they will follow a unique naming standard, and that is called as an ARN, Amazon resource name as ARN AWS. S3 is the service. S3 becomes the service, and other informations are hidden because as of now those informations are not required. And the name of the bucket, the name of the resource, S3 resource, and the name of the object that we have created is InfyXP bucket 1. Okay, so this whole information is called as ARN, Amazon resource name. We have to study more in detail about this in the advanced learning. As you go with advanced study, you will be getting to know that why we use ARN. ARN is a unique naming standards to be followed in the Amazon infrastructure space to provide unique resource names. Okay, so this how you can get it. You can just select the bucket, and then automatically you will get a pop-up box and the pop-up window, and there you have the option to copy the bucket ARN. I'm keeping it safe right now. Okay, I've copied. Anytime you can copy it. I'm keeping it right now safe in my notepad. The next thing that we have to do is just get into this InfyXP bucket 1, and moving into it, you can go and upload your image. So when you click the upload, you will get an upload image window, and there you can drag and drop, or you just click on the add files button, and there you can see I have my collection of Sundar Pichai image, so which I'm trying to include here. So Sundar Pichai 0 is the file that I'm including. 5 GB of data which you can store as a free tier account holder. Okay, so the image name is appearing. You can hit next, or you can just directly go and upload. You have option to set the permissions, set properties, and those are features which we will be learning it later, because these are read permissions, write permissions. For whom this read permissions and write permissions are the owner of this object. Okay, this is object, please be noted. What I'm adding right now is one object. You're getting it? This is one object, and the object size is 23.4 KB. Okay, object size can be from 0 to 5 TB, correct? That's what we learned, 0 to 5 TB. But right now it's just a minimal amount of file size we have, and this object will go straight into our bucket. Which bucket will it go into? It will go into the InfyXP bucket 1, right? So now coming to this read-write permissions, we will spend a bit later because we don't find time to give more explanations on that. But I'm just giving you a read permission, write permissions for which account user you can provide, whether read permission to be provided or write permission to be provided, that you can set it here. And then if needed, you can go and check for the set properties. This is another important area, but you can check that what storage class are you going to use. Is that a standard or intelligent tiering, standard 1A, one zone, 1A glacier? So there are different storage standards are there in the Amazon S3, which you can pick up, and their explanations are given here, and the cost will vary accordingly. Based on the storage class that you choose, your cost will vary. Okay, we will have a more in-depth study later. So once you hit next, you can review all your properties of this particular object and you go ahead and upload. Now you will see an object got stored inside your bucket. See the hierarchical flow from the Amazon S3 service. You have a bucket created called InfyXP bucket 1. Inside the bucket 1, you have this object. So how many objects you can store inside the bucket? n number of objects, because bucket size is unlimited amount of data, but the cost will be incurred as much of amount of data that you store. Okay, so now the important thing is, when I go and click on this object, okay, you can see there is a link appearing. Can you see that? So what we can do is, we can click on this link. Okay, I can just click on this link, but if I click on this link, you can see I've taken to another tab where it is raising an error. Hey, you're not having the access to access this object. Okay, means this is accessible from the public internet. If you look at the URL, okay, this is a public URL. This is a public URL to access the object. Okay, there's a public URL to access the object. So what is the object name? This is your key. This is your key. Exactly, this is your key, as I already defined. What is the value? Value is nothing but the Sundar Pichai image, which is stored inside an object as a binary. Okay, so key is there and the value is there. You can see the complete URL in order to access that particular object. But this is a public URL. It's a public URL. But we don't have access to this public URL resource by default. So we have to enable them. How do we enable? That's what which I'm going to teach you. So let's come back. And here, this is one option. Another option is, I am the owner, but still I'm unable to view it. How will I view it? Then you have the option called open button here. I repeat again, go to the Amazon S3. By now you'll find the one object got created. You can click on that object, and in that click on that bucket, and in that bucket you have the object. So when I click this object, you will find the URL to access this object. Or another option is open button is there. When you click that open button, you will see the image. But see closely that this link is completely different, because it is carrying the complete authorization code. You can see the secured authorization token code is already there, because I have logged into my AWS in my account and I am the owner. So I will be able to view this image. But when I use this link, this is the one which I will be forwarding it to you people to access it from your end. You're getting it? You will be unable to view this. Okay, I can even do that right now. So let's go ahead and pass it out here. So check out your chat box. By now I've shared. Please confirm, are you able to view it by hitting the link of that particular URL. But when I share this link, you will be unable to view it, because it's only a browser relevant credential, right? So you will not have the access yet. So you can just look at the link and see if you are able to access it. Anyone tried out? Give me a quick response. Yeah, not able to access it. Great. Thanks for the confirmation. So now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to set the permission. So to set the permission, I'm going to go back to the bucket. Okay, not to the image object. You can give the settings in the bucket itself. In the bucket, okay, right now I'm on the bucket element. You can see there's a properties. Okay, in the properties, what you can do is, you can see different ways of hosting your object. Like the whole static website can be hosted. If you are a blogger, okay, you can make use of this. You can have some static resource, HTML files, CSS, everything can be clubbed together, and you can host it as a website, a static website. Okay, and that too with the free of cost. Okay, so that settings which you can do, we have more interesting settings to be learned later. There is a permission segment. Under the permission segment, if you notice, we have already given this block called public access off. But even though that is off, we still don't have the access to the bucket. It's because we have to go to this bucket policy. Okay, in the bucket policy, in the permission section, bucket policy, you can see ARN resource is coming. Can you see this? The one which I explained right now. So that is the bucket resource name. Okay, Amazon resource name. Just copy and keep it. Now here you need to forward the information of giving a public access. If I go to the documentation, once I go to the documentation, here itself they are giving, there are two ways to actually append the code. One is you can look at the documentation, or you have a policy generator. I'll just show you from the documentation once, and then we'll go back to the generator if the time permits. Here you'll find there is once you scroll down, you'll find bucket policy example. Okay, you can see this bucket policy example. In this bucket policy example, we are going to see the template for giving the access. This is the template. This is the template which gives you a restricting access to specific IP address. It's there. It's okay. This is for IP address. I'm sorry. Yeah, here it is. So this is a basic template, not for a specific IP. So here you can use this and paste it here. Okay. So when you do so, you can you can save this settings. Okay, and it gives public access, but you have to change the name. This is not the bucket name. The bucket name is InfyXP bucket 1. That name you have to provide here. The asterisk means any resource in that bucket, any object in the bucket will have a public access. This is for S3 object. Okay, principle is for anyone, for any user, anyone can access. Okay, now I am not defining this way. I'm not going to use this. Rather, I'm going straight into the policy generator. I'm sorry. Once you click on the policy generator, you will have the option to generate it with some settings. The first thing is I need to choose the policy type, that is S3 bucket policy. It's allow, and principle is for everyone, so asterisk, and then for what action is that you want to give permission for the public access. I want to give for all these operations, put operations, get operations, everything, all actions. Start. Here is where they are asking for the ARN number. I'm sorry, the name, the unique ID. So we already captured that, right? And I've kept it ready in my notepad. You can just copy and paste it here, and you are able to see that your ARN information is provided. Your AWS service is S3. Principle is for everyone, no constraints at all. And giving allow means public full access is given for the S3 bucket. Okay, so these are the things that you have to input on these prompt, and you can add the statement. It will get added, and you can verify it. If needed, you can remove it if you want to change anything and recreate it once again. Just click on generate policy. You will get the same template of what I did in the documentation. Okay, this is more convenient. Okay, this is more convenient. You can make a note of this URL and you can keep it safe. I'm sorry, keep it bookmarked, so that whenever needed to generate this kind of a policy settings, you can quickly generate with the UI mode itself. Okay, now when I save this with the settings of this, if I save it, you can see there is a prompt, a warning prompt appears saying that, hey, you are making this bucket public. Are you intentionally doing it? Yes, of course I'm intentionally doing it. I want this bucket to be public. Once it is activated, you can see the public is enabled for the bucket policy. If I come back to the Amazon S3, you can see the accessibility is changed to public. Before it was not with public, it was completely protected. Now it is changed to public. Now what I do is I just go into this bucket and look at the image and go to the link. I guess somewhere we are going wrong. Should be accessible. Public access. Okay, I think for this we didn't define. You can just check at your end once whether you're able to access or not. So let me go back to the bucket. Public access, bucket policy. That's the problem. Now I notice where the problem was. I forgot to give that /star here. Okay, the resource should be /star. In the policy generator, I guess I didn't use the resource. When I copy pasted the URL, okay, I should have stated from the bucket what you want to access, all resource I want to access. So /* means all resources of the bucket need to be accessible. So that I didn't apply. So that's why I guess there is a problem. So let's go back now and look at your bucket. Go to the object and click this. Great. Now you confirm whether you are able to access. Now please check at the link what I've shared and let me know if you are able to access or not. Great. So there we get the public access. We have given the public access to the particular object for the bucket. The bucket is also having a public access and the object are also having a public access. You're getting it? So I thought of giving you more information. So you can also use the command line to access these S3 bucket by using AWS CLI. Okay, but I'm not finding time as we are running out of time. So I just wanted you people to ask any questions if you have any. We will come back. I will come back with the continuation of this session by next week. So meanwhile, if you have any questions, please let me know. You can throw your questions on the chat box so that I can take up the question right now. Any important question that you have. So I can create even a folder here. You can just click on the create folder and give a name called let's say summary. Okay, and inside this folder you can keep adding your files. Okay, so that is also possible. You can move it into the specific bucket where you want to move. Okay, you can do that as well, right? In this particular folder I want to move, you can choose that and move it. It gets moved into the summary. Now the URL will be changed. If you look at here, it will be /summary/ the object name. So it's just a flat structure. Don't think that since there is a folder, it's a file system hierarchy. No, it is not a file system hierarchy. What is the difference between the principal? Principal is you might be having multiple roles, right? Users, Sabari user, Balaji user, Parthasarathi user. So I'm giving permission only for Sabari or Parthasarathi. Only these two people can have the access to it. Means it's a principal based. It's a comma separated. If you have noticed there in the generator, policy generator, you should have noticed that the principal is a comma separated multiple value. So I can say it's AWS users. Okay, it's all about AWS user in the same account. I can provide that. Okay, so what else? Is this site stays for lifelong or it gets deleted after the free tier? Yeah, no, after the free tier gets over, it's not going to be deleted, but you will be charged. You will be charged for the memory consumption. That's all. Is that clear? See, anything that you create in your account, post your free tier, it will not get dropped. You will be notified anyways at the end of your free tier, probably a week before or a month before. But all your creation, all your workload will be there in your account and it will keep continuing, but it will move into the paid service. But few free service will be continued as free service itself. There are certain lifelong free services are there. Those lifelong free services will be a free service continual. But if it is not a free service, then the paid service will come into the picture. Any other question? Do anyone have any other question? So CLI based access is another important learning that we have to do from the CLS, from the console window. Also, you can access your S3, okay? AWS CLI is what they will call it as. You can just download the AWS CLI for your Windows version and install it. And then you have to input the configure, AWS configure, and it will prompt for the secret ID, the access key ID, and the secret access key and then which region you want to operate on top of, and then you're connected. You'll be connected. But right now I haven't given any information. You'll be connected, and then your account is connected via the console, and from here also you can operate your S3. You can store your image, you can copy your image, you can remove an image. All these you can do through a command prompt itself by injecting the commands. So you have RM command, you have CP commands which you can instruct it from the console window to get performed on your S3 object. I'm sorry, S3 bucket. Any question? So I'm left with another 3 more minutes for this 50 minutes time limit. If you still have any questions, please come forward. So right now my file link, the URL got changed. If you notice, the URL is changed. Now it comes under the prefixing of subarray. Subarray is the folder that we have created, but it is not a folder structure. It is again an object. That folder is also an object. Inside that object, we have the sub resource. If you remember that in the slide I showed you the sub resource. Okay, this is your sub resource, as you can see here. That's what I meant to say here. You created a folder or a directory, and inside that you have stored the object. But the directory, the folder by itself is an object in S3. Okay. So I still have few more points which I thought of giving. These are the informations about the S3 bucket. These are all something very important in terms of exam point of view. So you can create 100 buckets. How many buckets you can create in an account? 100 buckets. But if you want more, you can raise a request with the AWS service provider, and you can grow till 1000 buckets. And the durability is 11 nines durability. That's something unimaginable. Durability is very good in terms of S3. Regional resilient. Okay. And the bucket naming constraints are there. Unique, as I already said. 3 and 63 characters long, not containing an uppercase, as I said. Starts with a lowercase letter or number, it can be. Bucket names must not be formatted as an IP address. So you cannot give it like this. Can I use this as a bucket name? No, you can't. So these are some of the